Ethical insights and ancient wisdom for modern living from the Analects of Confucius. Xiao said, "Imagine someone who recognizes and admires worthiness and therefore changes his lustful nature, who is able to fully exhaust his strength in serving his parents and extend himself to the utmost in serving his Lord, and who is trustworthy in speech when interacting with friends and associates. Even if you said of such a person, 'Oh, but he is not learned,' xiao, I would still insist that it is precisely such qualities that make one worthy of being called learned." Many commentators believe the first line to be a reference to proper relations between the sexes, which makes the four qualities mentioned map nicely to the four great human relationships: husband-wife, child-parent, minister-lord, and friend-friend. As Xiao explains, during the three dynasties, learning had solely to do with illuminating human relations. One able to master the four relationships, mentioned in this passage, can be said to have a deep understanding of human relations. In learning this as the way, can anything be added to it? Xiao was famous for his culture and learning, so to have him speaking like this gives us a good sense of what the ancients meant when they spoke of learning. Alternately, rendered above as changing one's lustful nature, could also be understood as thinking lightly of sex/physical appearance. The master said, "If a gentleman is not serious, he will not inspire awe, and what he learns will be grasped only superficially. Let your actions be governed by dutifulness and trustworthiness, and do not accept as a friend one who is not your equal. If you have committed a transgression, do not be afraid to change your ways." Seriousness seems here to refer to a kind of genuine emotional commitment to the Confucian way. Kongnangwa reports the opinion that, what this means is that if one is not able to be sincere and serious, one will lack a demeanor that would inspire respect in others, and will also be unable to firmly grasp the underlying ethical principles of what one is taught. In the second half, we see again the emphasis upon improving one's actual behavior in one's interactions with others. The sentiment that one should not accept a friend who is not one's equal might seem a bit puzzling, or even offensive, to someone not acquainted with the idea of character friendship in the Aristotelian sense, but what Confucius means by a friend, here is a person who shares one's moral aspirations. One is to compare oneself with other people in general in order to evaluate one's moral progress, but the fellowship proved by a friend in virtue combines a powerful spur to further moral development with a deeply felt solidarity of purpose, an important solace during the long and arduous process of self-cultivation. As Confucius explains that the practice of goodness is like learning a craft, and one sharpens one's tools by seeking out the company of like-minded souls. Similarly, a true friend in virtue serves as a support and comfort. The gentleman relies upon his friends for support in becoming good. Master Zheng said, "Take great care in seeing off the deceased and sedulously maintain the sacrifices to your distant ancestors, and the common people will sincerely return to virtue." The target audience for this saying seems to be rulers or potential rulers, the message being that the key to ordering the state is paying attention to one's own behavior, a theme often repeated in books 12 and 13 below. As Chengshud observes, by the time of the spring and autumn period, education and ritual had sadly declined, and cruelty to one's parents had become prevalent among the common people. Therefore, Master Zheng rebuked those in power by noting that if they would merely take care in seeing off their deceased and sedulously maintain the sacrifices to their distant ancestors, the common people would naturally become aware of their own meanness and be moved to return to kindness. As the record of ritual says, cultivate the ancestral temples, respectfully perform the ancestral sacrifices, and thereby teach the common people to maintain filial piety. Ziqin asked Zigong, when our master arrives in a state, he invariably finds out about its government. Does he actively seek out this information? Surely it is not simply offered to him. Zigong answered, our master obtains it through being courteous, refined, respectful, restrained and deferential. The master's way of seeking it is entirely different from other people's way of seeking it, is it not? Huang Ken believes the point of this passage to be that the quality of rulership in a state is revealed in the sentiment of the common people, to which Confucius was particularly sensitive because of his virtuous nature. Rulers thus give away this information inadvertently to one as attuned as Confucius, who therefore does not have to make inquiries in the ordinary fashion. Zhu Shi believes that it is the rulers who, drawn by the power of the master's virtue, actively seek Confucius out to discuss the problems of governance. In any case, the point seems to be that Confucius sought it in himself, not in others, or that, as Lu Longqi puts it, the sage seeks things by means of virtue, unlike ordinary people who seek things with their minds. That is, while ordinary people consciously and deliberately pursue external goals, the sage focuses his attention upon his own inner virtue and allows external things to come to him naturally. Confucius does not actively pry or seek out information, but is so perfected in virtue that what he seeks comes to him unbidden, in a wu-wei fashion. The master said, when someone's father is still alive, observe his intentions; after his father has passed away, observe his conduct. If for 3 years he does not alter the ways of his father, he may be called a filial son. 3 years, usually understood as into the 3rd year, or 25 months, is the standard mourning period for a parent. As Kong Nongua explains, when his father is still alive, the son is not able to act as he wants, because he must obey the father's commands, so one can only observe his intentions in order to judge his character. It is only once his father has passed away that the son can learn about his character by observing his own actions. As long as the filial son is in mourning, his sorrow and longing is such that it is as if the father were still present, and this is why he does not alter the ways of his father. Yin Tun clarifies, if the ways of his father are in accordance with the way, it would be perfectly acceptable to go his entire life without changing them. If they are not in accordance with the way, though, why does he wait 3 years to change them? Even in the latter case, the filial son goes 3 years without making any changes because his heart is blocked by a certain reluctance. In this passage, we see hints of the priority given to familial affection and loyalty over considerations of what is more abstractly right, that is expressed more starkly. Master, you said, when it comes to the practice of ritual, it is harmonious ease, that is to be valued. It is precisely such harmony that makes the way of the former kings so beautiful. If you merely stick rigidly to ritual in all matters, great and small, there will remain that which you cannot accomplish. Yet if you know enough to value harmonious ease but try to attain it without being regulated by the rites, this will not work either. What it means to practice ritual with harmonious ease, i.e., in an wu-wei fashion, is illustrated in the description of Confucius' ritual behavior in Book 10. Ritual behavior must be accompanied by such easy joy and harmony if it is to be truly valued. On the other hand, such ease involves more than simply indulging one's innate emotions. The innate emotions must be properly shaped by ritual forms before they can become truly harmonious. The message here is related to the theme of possessing both native substance, ji, and cultural refinement, one, in their proper balance. Master, you said, trustworthiness comes close to rightness, in that your word can be counted upon. Reverence comes close to ritual propriety, in that it allows you to keep shame and public disgrace at a distance. Simply following these virtues, never letting them out of your sight, one cannot deny that this is worthy of respect. Described here are secondary virtues that allow one to live a respectable life, but that lack the flexibility and subtlety of the primary virtues. In explaining why trustworthiness, xiao, is only close to rightness, Lu Baonan cites Mencius that the great person is not always necessarily true to his word, xiao, because he is concerned only with rightness, explaining that trustworthiness must always be practiced with an eye toward what is right. Huang Ken illustrates the potential tension between trustworthiness and rightness with the story of the legendary paragon of trustworthiness, Wei Sheng, who once promised to meet a girl under a river bridge, come hell or high water. Unfortunately, there was a great storm the next day, and the high water did come. The girl stayed at home, but Wei Sheng obstinately refused to abandon the appointed meeting place and so was drowned. This is an example of trustworthiness not accord ing with what is appropriate to the situation, where in fact it would be best if one did not keep one's word, Huang Ken concludes. Similarly, the feeling of reverence although the root of ritual propriety, can in its raw form motivate actions that do not accord with the subtly tuned dictates of ritual propriety. The master said, the gentleman is not motivated by the desire for a full belly or a comfortable abode. He is simply scrupulous in behavior and careful in speech, drawing near to those who possess the way in order to be set straight by them. Surely this and nothing else is what it means to love learning. We see here the first expression of a theme that will be repeated throughout the Analects. The true lover of the way is not concerned with externalities such as fine, abundant food or other material comforts. The general theme of Book 1, that learning pertains to one's actual deportment rather than to theoretical knowledge, is also reinforced. As Wang Shu comments, the primary focus of students in ancient times was to cultivate themselves by being meticulous in speech and careful in action, rather than merely memorizing, reciting, and composing texts. Students nowadays, on the other hand, devote themselves exclusively to memorizing, reciting, and composing texts with the sole purpose of passing the civil service exams and obtaining official positions. Very few of them ever get around to paying careful attention to their actual behavior or speech. Perhaps this is why they pale in comparison to the ancients, for the importance of being careful with regard to one's speech. Zigong said, "Poor without being obsequious, rich without being arrogant. What would you say about someone like that?" The master answered, "That is acceptable, but it is still not as good as being poor and yet joyful, rich and yet loving ritual." Zigong said, "An ode says, as if cut, as if polished, as if carved, as if ground. Is this not what you have in mind?" The master said, "Zigong, you are precisely the kind of person with whom one can begin to discuss the odes. Informed as to what has gone before, you know what is to come." Cutting and polishing refer to the working of bone and ivory, while carving and grinding refer to jade work, cutting and carving being the initial rough stages, and polishing and grinding the finishing touches. Here the task of self-cultivation is understood metaphorically in terms of the arduous process of roughly shaping and then laboriously finishing recalcitrant materials. Zigong's quotation of this ode shows that he has instantly grasped Confucius' point, explained quite nicely by Zhu Xi. Ordinary people become mired in poverty or wealth, not knowing how to be self-possessed in such circumstances, necessarily leading to the two faults of obsequiousness or arrogance. A person who is able to be free of both knows how to be self-possessed, but has still not reached the point of completely transcending poverty and wealth. When a person is joyful, he is relaxed in his mind and physically at ease, and therefore forgets about poverty. When he loves ritual, he is at peace wherever he goes and follows principles in a cheerful, good-natured fashion, being equally unconscious of wealth. Zigong was a businessman, probably starting out poor and then becoming rich, and therefore had to exert effort to remain self-possessed. This is why he asked this particular question. The master's answer was probably intended to acknowledge what Zigong had already achieved while at the same time encouraging him to continue striving after that which he had yet to attain. Zhu Xi also notes that Zigong's quotation reveals not only that he has grasped Confucius' specific point, that he, Zigong, still has quite a bit of finishing work to do, but also serves as a general statement of the Confucian view of self-cultivation, that one should not be so satisfied with small achievements that one fails to urge oneself on. This instant grasping of the larger point to be taught is an excellent example of a student being given 3 corners of a square and coming up with the 4th. The master said, "Do not be concerned about whether or not others know you, be concerned about whether or not you know others." The first half of this saying refers to the need to be unconcerned about public opinion or fame. The gentleman studies for his own sake, not in order to impress others, and seeks for it in himself, not in others. Commentators generally explain the second half as having to do with the ability to morally judge others.